here at the Campbell Law Group, and we want to welcome you back for our episode 8, season 1 of the Legal Zone. I have the pleasure of introducing to you today Dr. Teddy Tarr.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us with Dr. Tarr. Today we're going to talk about grief and how to handle it during the holiday season and beyond. I think it'll be very instructive. I'm going to give you, Dr. Tarr, can you give us a little background on your experience and your education and what you do?
Well, I always say, I wish I had done just the lectures, but unfortunately I got to do all the workshops. And I got to have all the losses, which was just awful. And that was why I went to school to become a psychologist, to work with bereavement. And I'm only going to tell you that like anything else, you can become OCD and just want to know everything and learn everything and absorb yourself. It's very, very enticing. Just like anything else. If you happen to be interested in thanatology, then take a bereavement course.
Oh, okay. So that is your specialty, bereavement?
It is my specialty.
Okay.
Please call me Teddy.
Thank you, Teddy. Thank you. I didn't want to presume, so thank you, Teddy. So I want to talk today. It's very important. As you know, I'm a lawyer and I handle civil and family law cases. And very often, of course, there's the element that, particularly if there's a case element of damages of mental health, or the symptoms of damages actually result in as of mental health issues, whether it's trauma, or whether it might be from a rape, from an injury, from a car injury, or issues going on with children and family. So often psychologists are a very big part of that. And within that, and of course we are also in the holiday seasons. We are coming off 2 years of COVID. I thought this was a very important topic to discuss, particularly in the holidays and after the difficult times we all have. So if you could talk to me a little bit about, what do you say to a client, on the first visit? What type of things do you ask them to figure out where to start?
Well, thank you, first of all, to inviting me.
Yeah.
Because unlike a lot of other topics, bereavement is not necessarily real popular among anybody, because none of us want to be in that particular place. Yeah. And all it takes is one phone call, and there you are. So in general, when someone comes to see me, and I know nothing, I rarely talk to anyone over the phone other than they might say, I lost somebody. But I just don't get into a discussion over the phone about bereavement. It's not appropriate. So what usually I start with is, I introduce myself. What brought you here? That is the first thing. And I'm looking for just a small narrative telling me what's happened. If it looks to me like it could possibly be a court case, I always ask, are you involved in a court case? That's very, very important for me to know, because I'm going to have to set up a record that's absolutely unbelievably good. Not only am I expected to do therapy that's good, I also have a record that's good, and I try to do some kind of what we call a TSI, a traumatic symptom inventory, something to show where this person is. It happens to be one of the best traumatic tests there is. By the way, trauma, if it's your person that's died, it's traumatic. I don't care how, it's traumatic. If it's just a personal loss, someone aged, someone died of an illness, no matter how old or how young, we're in a different place. Yeah. But if it's a court case, it's important for me to know. I'm going to have to keep a better record. I'm going to have to do some objective testing. I'm going to have to try to explain to the client, it's not what happened to you that gives you a court case on mental health at all. It's, here you were before, this is what happened to you. Here you are now, this is who you are now. You can't work, you can't do anything, you have no life, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever it is.
Right.
That's my job, is to show those changes.
And I imagine the causation, that as a result of this accident, all of this is incurred, all of this is ensued, so to speak.
Right.
And because it's important to show, of course, the timelines in any kind of litigation.
That's correct.
So, and you as a professional, as you were indicating earlier, you have to have your test. You're anticipating already potentially being deposed and being called.
Usually not.
No?
They would rather have anybody but me.
Why is that, Teddy?
One deposition is usually enough to say, I think we'll settle.
That's good.
Because if you come with a record, it's one thing, but if you really know the client and you know what's going on, you can answer any question.
Yeah.
The only thing I do face, I have to admit, is I didn't graduate from Cornell. My claim to fame is I went to a Puerto Rican imported college, which I just loved.
Yeah.
And my whole thoughts about that were, I know what I know, but they don't know what I know. But on more than one occasion, they've asked the client to go and find someone from Cornell. And they come back to me and they say, I want to find another attorney.
Yeah.
So what I say, no psychologist ever won a court case. Only the attorney won the court case. So you stay with the attorney and let me work with them.
Well, I can tell you from experience, because I have, worked with you and sent people to you in the past. I think it's very important, but also for the court case, you know your stuff.
I've been in it since 1992. I wrote my dissertation on complicated mourning, and I have a track on education. I put myself out as an absolutely possibly nothing else person who works with losses and bereavement. That's it.
Yeah, and it's absolute, and you do an amazing job, and you're very personal. You're one-on-one with the people. You understand their specific needs, and how that particular person has had issues. How affected that particular person in trauma. You can articulate that very well and objectify that in exams.
Thank you.
And everything. Yeah. So I would take you any day over somebody else.
Thank you. It'd be okay if I went to a Puerto Rican school. I love that.
Well, particularly because I'm Puerto Rican, so I definitely have no problem with that. and I never find that as an indication of someone's ability or intelligence at all. I really don't. I mean,
no. But I can understand how people feel that Ivy League schools and really good schools produce really good people. I think very good people get a very good education at any school and can do what they need to do.
It's about them.
It's about you.
Yes.
How much you read, how much you're into it.
Yes.
So
And how dedicated and
I took a lot of razzing. I took a tremendous amount of razzing. They called me the D lady because of death. By the way, even through bereavement, don't lose your sense of humor.
That's right.
You're going to have to pull in all your resources. One of your best resources is your sense of humor.
And you need that, right? That's one of the tools you can use, right?
To be lighthearted at times.
That was my thought. So, it kind of segues a little bit into what we were talking about, and in general grief, because this is also about the holiday season, but also beyond the holiday season. Because as you've told me, grief doesn't turn on and off.
No.
Yeah, you can't turn it on and off. It goes with you everywhere in life, particularly if you've been through a traumatic incident or circumstances. So, talk to us a little bit about, the holiday season too, like how do you recognize grief? Grief is not always just sadness, correct?
No, it can be other losses as well. I'd like to start with human loss and then I'll answer any questions you have, because pet loss is really important. Mm-hmm. But in general, people who are not pet lovers do not see it as a big loss.
Yeah.
Now, you and I both love pets, so we see it a little differently. We feel we're pet parents.
Yes.
And that we've lost one of our children.
Yes.
But you want to be very careful with others, and that brings me to, there's no cure in here. I'm very clear. I co-journey. I can't cure this. If I could cure it, I'd say pull out your checkbook, 10 grand. I'll take it out. You won't have to go through this. I would have done that for myself. Yeah. Forget for them. There's only management. Grief is managed, and it's managed over time, and at any time. With children or with adults, it can hit you when you're least expected. Even after years during the holidays, it can hit you. So I want you to remember that. So you need to manage yourself. During the holidays, intrusive memories are probably the biggest problem.
Yes. Okay.
Because you remember every holiday you ever had with that person, and the fact is you're all alone. And I don't care what you do or where you go, that's going to hit you in the face.
Right, so even sometimes when you're surrounded by people or other families and friends, that person still may be gone if they might have passed away or you might have lost them. And a fight between each other may not be an accident or something of that nature, but in general that person is lost. So even though if you're surrounded by people, it's true you can still suffer and feel lonely if you had that loss of a particular person or companion or child. You still lost.
May I mention, you mentioned pandemic.
Yeah.
Please, if you have a relative or friend and they haven't been vaccinated, and one of their family members who isn't vaccinated dies, Don't anybody ever put on the web they deserved it, they should have been vaccinated. You know, there are a lot of people who love that person.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to be kind. If you can't be kind, you shouldn't be using social media at all. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Okay, and I just wanted to mention
I
that
agree.
because you said something.
And I think sometimes people do not realize it's not, you know, there's different reasons people have decided not to get
Yes.
to get vaccinated, and then I don't think, and I can't imagine the person that may have passed either would think that they actually deserve to die because of that.
They
So
actually
it's
put
not-
on there that they've killed themselves. Can you believe that? I've had kids in here that have had to deal with that. So one of the things that happens, you know, we dream big.
Yeah.
And when we lose someone that we love, that dream with that person is smashed.
Yeah.
It's shattered.
Yeah.
So what happens is no matter where we go, who we're with, and a lot of times people think, well, if you had 4 children, you lose 1, or you still have your other 3.
Yeah,
Worst
but-
thing in the world to say. And
Absolutely.
people actually make that mistake and say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the things is recognizing what to say. Very little.
Yeah.
If you're trying to help someone through bereavement, very little. If you're the one going through the bereavement, then what you have to do is say to yourself, you know what? People love me. They're trying to give me advice, horrible advice, but they love me. So the best thing to say is don't get in a battleground. Just say, thank you, Carol. I thank you, June. I thank you. I know you care about me, and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Don't start. If you start cutting people off who normally are there for you,
Yeah.
you'll have no one at the end of bereavement.
Yeah.
So no matter how many family and friends you have, no matter how many parties you go to, it won't matter. It's not going to take it out. People don't realize that. Don't expect someone else to support your bereavement. Pick out someone who you can talk to, who you can say, look, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to help me with it.
Maybe to be
Will you
there.
just listen? Yeah, just be there
To be there.
and just listen.
Because sometimes I think friends, what they want to, they almost want to get in there and cradle you or take it out for you or to help you somehow fix it. And they
Right.
really, it's something that, like you said before, it is a journey that will be with you through the good times, the bad times.
It's there.
It's a matter of managing it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think you created, I mean, this is particularly a handout that I'm going to post also, but you created a grief in the holidays, list, a checklist here that gives people ideas on how to deal with it.
That is the typical list. I pulled that from my files. Actually, personally, it's caca. That's grief 101. If you're in grief 101 and somebody just died in the last 20 minutes, probably that's going to help you.
Yeah.
But in general, I want to tell you what I found.
Yeah.
I'm in this. I didn't go in this because of reading and doing workshops. I went to the reading and workshops because I had a lot of losses. So you're on a battlefield. You better have a lot of guts. You better be capable of fighting this thing. You need to say to yourself, I'm going to surrender to the fact that this is what I've got. I've got a battle going on. I have lost this person. They meant, and you identify what they meant to you. You have to know what they meant in order to know what you've lost. Yeah. And you have to work from there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so number 1 is I'm on a battlefield. Number 2 is I'm a thriver. I've never given up on myself. I'm not going to give up on myself now. That isn't going to help the person I've lost.
No.
The problem is we keep going back to those last 4 or 5 slides of when they died.
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to do is help people to move from there. And you can do that yourself. You can use your music. You can use your reading materials, your self-help. I'm a big self-help person. I believe in self-help.
Yeah.
You can use your art. You can use, your friendships and your family, and you can do a lot of things. I'm only suggesting during the holidays, keep it low key. Don't spread yourself so thin. Don't think money's going to make it work.
No, and stress yourself out more.
Yeah.
If you normally go
You
to
need
4 people's
less
houses,
stress.
maybe you stay home and you have people come visit you
Yeah.
who come see you. Just manage. Don't feel like you have that responsibility to put on the dog, so to speak, if you're still going through it.
I agree. And also you can give a limit. You can say, look, I can have coffee with you, but more than a half hour I start getting so tired.
Yeah.
Say that. People will understand. What they won't understand if you cut them off and you don't take the phone and you ghost them.
Right.
They won't understand that. I need to learn how to live with this. I need to learn how to manage it. That was what I said to myself. I'm a thriver, but I'm going to hurt just as much as somebody who is in the trauma, a victim, a survivor, a thriver, an inspirer.
Yeah.
Someone who's gone through all this is the person you want to talk to.
Yes, they know how to.
They know that you can't take it away overnight.
No, and it's a process, right? So we were talking about a little bit before. People are angry. Well, they they didn't get vaccinated, they deserved it, or they killed themselves. That it also can be anger, because nobody really, not usually, not many people want to see somebody hurt.
No.
But sometimes it's an anger that you're like, why did that person do that? And here we have a death.
Maybe wanting vengeance.
Well, that can be too.
With the doctor?
Yes, correct, right. Or with someone that might have given them this advice and they get mad.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that that's also precedes surrender, right? Maybe anger, maybe lashing out. Isn't that also another form of maybe the way people express grief, although it looks more like something else?
I think in general, it's an opportunity not to grieve.
Okay.
What it does, it takes the
way.
place of the loss.
Okay.
Now I can go ahead and I can just be angry, or I can be depressed, I can curl up, I can go to my room.
Yeah.
But that's not going to do anything for you. You can stay there 24 years.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come looking for you. You know, my favorite expression that I created for myself was, you know what? Death will look for you. Life isn't going to find you.
It's true.
Death will go into the closet and look for you.
Yeah, it's true.
Life will never look for you. So you can give up your life.
So you have to chase after life.
You have to
live
chase it.
And it's so, it just seems like anger might be a form of displacement of grief. Maybe
Absolutely.
not to suffer it, right?
It's a good word.
Yeah, okay.
Displacement is a good word. Also vengeance, feeling so angry at people, not uncommon. That needs to be worked through. Anger at God.
Yeah. Right.
Anger
Right.
at God.
Right.
Anger at the person who maybe drove the car. Anger at somebody who shot.
Right. Or allow them to keep drinking and they drunk themselves to death or something.
The problem with anger,
behavior.
anger served. Anger served today goes away. Anger starved will stay, and it will keep coming back and coming back. So you've got to deal with it. Anger is something that says to us, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Look at this. I need to do something about it. Anger is not the emotion. The emotion is sadness.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
anger is the thought. Anger is a cognitive thought.
Okay.
I'm angry. Whereas sadness is the emotion.
Okay. And I guess anger, to some extent, for a lack of a better understanding, when you're like, okay, this happened to me, and you're kind of like, you can't do anything about it. The person may have been lost, or the friendship, or whatever may have happened, or trauma happened to somebody, because maybe it's not always death. It can be something else that occurred, a rape or something,
It
or
could
something.
be
Yes.
other losses, you
Yes.
say.
Yeah. So I could just see someone, I want to do something about this.
Yeah.
So I guess anger is sort of, it also distracts you. It keeps you right.
It
from,
can be healthy.
Yeah.
We can turn it into healthy. We can be angry and decide to give a scholarship
Yeah.
to help
Sure.
find perpetrators, to put them in prison or something.
So it can be converted to positive things also, because I think a lot of people, when they think of grief, they just think of sadness and depression, and it has many faces to it. And more than anything, from what I'm hearing from you, it's a journey. It doesn't go away.
journey.
So you have to learn to.
All loss has change. All change has loss.
That is.
And you mentioned the word rape. I did a podcast on rape, and that is not an area where I venture into all the time. But oftentimes clients will talk about former times when something happened to them. In general, the more wounded you are with the rape, the more injuries you have, the more hospitalization, people will believe you. You'll get more sympathy. If you have nothing showing on you, you will get no sympathy. They'll say you should have fought him. They'll say, I don't believe you.
Right.
I hate to say that, but
no, it's
really
absolutely true. And
does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have a lot of domestic violence victims that unless I sometimes say to them,
where's the evidence?
Yes, or like the judge is gonna say, especially when you actually are very well at recovering or putting on a show, not a show, but there's some people that they could be dying inside and they just keep trying to have the best face forward, to make themselves happy, to lift themselves up, but they're dying inside. Well, unfortunately, to a judge, you look fine, or to somebody else, and you're absolutely right. Some people are like, well, you have a bruise.
Well, just figure. So
Yeah,
you're
nothing
raped.
happened to you, so you feel raped again.
Okay, so let's say you're
Yeah.
kidnapped and raped and sodomized and everything happens to you. But you've come to me now for 5 years. I've been seeing you. Every time you come to me, there's a session. 5 years later, the court case,
Yeah.
it comes to order. But in the meantime, you've gotten a promotion.
Right.
You found a guy. You've married. You
Right.
now have a child. You have this gorgeous house. The jury is going to hear all of that, and they are not going to focus on that rape 5 years ago.
And it's unfortunate.
And it's not
but
fair.
That is, it's absolutely unfair.
This person is no more the person they were. They're fearful. They have no trust. They have major trust issues.
Yes.
That child's going to be helicoptered.
Yeah.
That mother is never going to hoover. It's always going to be over that child.
Yeah.
And that is because of what happened.
But you're almost penalized
Yeah.
for trying to recover from the trauma and doing well.
And trying to
Or
understand that.
reasonably well, because
Yeah.
in your head you're not.
So,
well,
but my
right.
job is not to keep somebody unhealthy.
Right.
I'm
right.
sorry.
Right. You're not gonna be like, well, stay. You know.
Don't get better.
Yeah. Don't get better.
So
that.
so
Yeah.
you can win the court case. No.
No.
What I always say to people is the same thing. If you want to reclaim your life, you have to work really, really hard.
Yes.
The money is never as significant as reclaiming your time in your life. Am I correct?
No, 100%. You know what I mean? And the money, you can have money, but you can still sit there in sadness, and you can.
Because
it
you
won't
did
help.
nothing.
Right, exactly. You didn't actually help yourself.
No.
So I think that's why it's so important. Grief has so many different faces to it, and particularly one of the areas that I'm really concerned with nowadays is children.
Okay.
They are coming off this COVID. None of us have ever experienced really anything like this.
No.
And I'm seeing a lot of issues with mental health with children. And of course, some children are quiet, and that's dangerous for them. You don't know really what they're thinking. You think they're fine, and they're not fine. They're harboring thoughts of loneliness, desperation, insignificance, or just feeling like this never ending, or I've lost my friends, and this happens also when they've been bullied in any ways in normal circumstances, but I think COVID might have exacerbated the situation. They've had losses in families. There's a lot of money difficulties going on with parents right now too also. So how can grief or loss be different in a child? Does it show itself differently in different behaviors, or like you're saying, cognitive sort of behaviors?
Sure. First of all, kids are resilient, very smart, and I hate to say it, are eavesdroppers. They listen at the door. They know everything. You want to know something? Ask a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
A 4-year-old can tell you the whole story of what's going on in the house. So I think, in a way, we prepare our children with short-term pets,
Yes.
pets that die. We teach them about death
Okay.
all the way along. We build resilience, even if there's a divorce.
Yeah.
It's not about the divorce, it's the two families and how they
How they
deal
deal
with the kids.
Okay.
Right.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. There was a lot of research done on World War II kids that came out of England.
Yeah.
A lot of research on England and on those kids. And families that stayed intact or that worked really hard. And that isn't just the biological family, but the extended
Community
family.
too sometimes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Made a big difference on how those kids grew up and the loss that they've had. COVID isn't going away.
No.
I think we're going to cure COVID. We're not going to cure
No.
COVID. We've got probably 500 years of this in different ways, in different manners. And it's like anything else. If you accept this is what you've got and you don't let it interfere with your life 100%, but you play it safe.
Yes.
You do the things to take care of yourself, whatever the choices are.
Okay. Interesting. So that's what and I think maybe sometimes parents were lost in so much going on with the extra stress and the this and the that,
Yeah.
and in general, I think like you're saying, it could be okay. It's just the way they deal with it. Teach them to do along
Kids
the
like
way
to use kids. They
Yeah.
like to talk to their friends.
Yeah.
That's one of the things when the kids come in, I usually ask them, do you have a friend that you talk to about this? Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Kids are resilient. We have to work with the resiliency.
Okay.
And I think the little books that are out there, and there are many little books,
Mhm.
help a lot.
Okay.
Sometimes, sometimes it's better to find a book than it is to try to talk to a child about something, especially a young child.
Yes. Yeah.
I have my favorite book. Can I just grab my favorite book?
Yes, absolutely.
It is my very
Oh,
favorite.
wait, the
yes,
microphone.
I'm not going that far.
Okay. Just don't want you to fall.
You know what it is? She's afraid I'll escape, so she has
Yes,
to get a
I have her
sharp
see.
chain.
I have her. She can't get away from it.
Okay, so this is my very favorite book. I'm sorry I didn't grab it earlier. But it's called The Next Place. And I think it's a fabulous book.
Okay. Take a look. Sorry. And what's it about?
And it's
From
about
Warren
it's
Hansen.
about grief.
Agree.
And it's
Okay.
about where we go. But it's not religious. It's more of a spiritual kind of undertaking about feeling safe.
Okay.
And that's why I like it. And you can see the pictures are beautiful.
Yes. Well, so far
They're
the
well-
covers are beautiful. I've seen.
You know, I didn't say, I think you asked the question you asked, you wanted to know about children in bereavement.
Yeah.
Children in bereavement, sometimes they'll wet their bed, they'll regress. Sometimes they'll cry more for a while. It's hard to say. If they're with I always suggest, and I sometimes get calls about this, that they're part of the funeral.
Oh,
They're part of the
yeah.
everything that's going on, so that the pictures are there of them.
Yeah.
Even if you have a baby, babies grieve. Give the baby to somebody
Yeah.
who's able to handle the
Yeah.
grief.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because the parent themselves, I mean, sometimes they might be going through a lot of grief, and they might be better off being with an aunt or an uncle, someone. Well,
Yeah.
depending on the circumstances, that
That's
might just
true.
be able to be a
A
little
little
bit
calmer.
Yes, correct.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and I mean, because I just hear for a lot of times from parents, you know, of course, well, teenagers are teenagers, right? They act out anyway.
They don't want to talk.
No.
They don't want to talk to anybody about anything. And the least, they don't want to talk to you at all.
No, not. It's like they want the help, but like, no, I can't even accept it from you because it's you. I can't be seen accepting it from you. You know what I mean, so to speak. There's that battleground to some extent. But you know, teenagers, they have as they get older, they're introduced to a lot of different other, you know, environments and other kids, and unfortunately drugs a lot of times, and so it becomes a more confusing to unwrap. You know,
I
anger,
think-
grief, and all these things in children, or particularly teenagers, I find.
Maybe drawing out the trees.
Mhm.
Maybe the ancestral trees where
Yeah.
we've come from. The children should know that. How what kind of generations and what they did to bring us to where we are today.
Okay.
And
So no struggles.
putting themselves in there.
Real. Okay.
How important they are.
Okay.
And how important they are in the lineage, and that even though this person has passed away, they're still carrying those genes
Yeah, and that they survived
Tying them
and they
to
went
that,
through this, and
to the
that,
ancestral chain.
okay, and that it's part of life. It's part
Yeah.
of what you go through.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. Well, this has been very, very instructive. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. You also have another handout that I'm going to post also on well-being. That just overall helps people like beyond the holidays, the types of things that'd be as
January,
helpful.
to start January.
Yes.
I want to also recommend walking,
Okay. Yeah.
gym, whatever, spinning if you happen to be more athletic. Some of these things help you to get your body back. There's a lot of body work done today. I'm not particularly a body work person. Don't look like a body work person. I'm a person who likes to go to the refrigerator. Well, anyway, not going to get into that. But I am suggesting that exercise, a good diet, and not isolating yourself, the socialization would be the important things.
Well, it gives you the strength also to deal with the mental
Yes.
difficulties and the lethargy, the depression, and it just makes it easier, right?
Because
It's
it's
a natural
physiological
medicine.
as well.
Right.
The body
Endorphins.
talks to the brain and the brain talks to the body.
Right.
We don't have two separate entities.
No, correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just some of these, I'll list a couple out that you suggest. Optimistic mindset, stay focused, stay in control,
Yeah.
know what needs are important, you know, strong motivation, holistic, upward progress. These are all very important things. You also have feeling like you belong.
Yeah.
Strong support network.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're part of a group of 5 going to dinner.
Yeah.
Your friends, 2 couples who you used to go out with.
Mhm.
You know, I think rather than seeing it as 3 couples but you don't have a partner,
Yeah.
you want to see it as 5 separate individuals sitting at a table, because no one is feeling coupled when they're eating dinner.
That's true too.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
But we
right.
have these crazy ideas in our minds.
Well, and I think sometimes we feel like we also might be embarrassed because we're single and then there were
Right.
2 other couples. And
Can I go out to dinner by myself?
Yes, correct. And sometimes can I go out to dinner by myself? You know, and I'm always in awe and very inspired when I see some people that can. It takes a lot of courage to do it, but if you stop and think about it, sometimes what better company than sometimes to be yourself, to be there with yourself, with your thoughts, to enjoy the moment. I mean, sometimes that is a good way to do it as well.
Excellent.
You know, I mean, you are in good company, you know. So I mean, and ironically, there have been some artists. I believe Keanu Reeves is one of them that was never embarrassed by, you know, doesn't always have a girlfriend, doesn't always have to have someone, you know, next to him, and he never embarrassed by it and just said, why not? I mean, better to be in my company than in bad company.
That's really true.
And it's very healthy mentally, you know.
You know,
so,
time, a lot of people will tell you, well, just, it's going to take time. No, time gives us time, but it doesn't in itself heal.
No.
People can have a bereavement for 25 years. You can go to a group and find somebody in there who never has given it up.
No, it's true.
You have to decide that you're going to learn how to manage it and work with it, but you're not going to take those intrusive bad feelings about yourself and the loneliness that comes from not working and managing it.
I agree. It's like you're saying, you know, death will find you anywhere that you're at, but life will not. You have to go.
Life isn't going to look for you.
No. I've seen people that have lost a loved one and they hide away for 10 years. Something woke them up and they continue to live. They might get remarried again, or they might, you know what I mean, they live. There's something in them.
You know what I tell
within them.
You know what I tell people when they tell me, I'm going to be all alone New Year's.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't have to be someone who's lost a partner.
Right, that's
that
true.
could be someone who has never found a partner.
That's true. Yeah.
And I always say to them the same thing I've always said. Well, obviously you can't maybe do anything about that.
Yeah.
Except you can decide how you're going to spend New Year's.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And you know what? You could, if you're already in bereavement, you're already sad, and you can't get rid of those feelings, this is a great time to take out the wedding album, to take out all the various things.
Yeah.
And go through them. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, start over in a different way.
Start over.
Yeah, healthy way.
Yeah, because you're going to have to do your bereavement anyway. And if it's already starting to seep in, let me take it in its fullness.
Yes.
This is a battleground. Let me show you I can do this battle.
Yes.
And you know something? It will start. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Once you decide not to fight it, and you decide to surrender and work with it. There's a difference between fighting it and avoiding it.
Yeah.
You know, eating too much, doing things that aren't healthy, drinking too much. I want to mention those things are horrible.
Yeah, well, and they actually worsen your ability to actually get out of it. It clouds your judgment.
Now you feel worse about other things.
Yes, and it tints the reality of what you're facing. You know, it makes it look different. Yeah. So I think, you know, it might be hard, but maybe you're taking out the wedding books, you're cleaning out something, you're taking a step forward.
That's right.
And it's a step, and then okay, I did this step. Wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you have another idea and another step.
That's exactly right.
And then before you know, you're walking. You know, you're moving forward. But like you said, even moving forward, it's not that the grief turns off or it's never there. It's just you learned how to manage it, right?
You learned how to manage it.
Yeah. No. So this has been wonderful. You know, yes, thank you.
I so enjoyed it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for letting us. Yes, no, thank you, because you have such knowledge and experience, and you know, I mean, this is what you do. So what better for you to impart to, you know, this advice to us and to help a lot of people going through this, and that's why I thought it'd be so helpful. And I know you are wonderful and so brilliant, so I said she's going to be helpful for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Anytime.
So we want to thank Dr. Tarr Teddy, she's also called Teddy.
Please.
You know, for joining us this morning and helping us get through this and teaching us, you know, what grief is and how to deal with it, particularly during the holidays. Hopefully this has been really instructive and helpful for everybody. This is the type of podcast that we'd like to bring to you on the Legal Zone. And we want to ask you to stay tuned. If you haven't seen our prior podcast, please come join us on YouTube and on Buzzsprout, and also become a subscriber of our channel so you can see our future podcasts and get information on them. Also, we want to thank you for tuning in again, and we want to ask everyone to follow us on the social media accounts, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And happy holidays to everybody. Stay safe, stay happy, stay well. Thank you.
Thank you.